Lynn Carr, the treatment of mental health in Thurrock in 2015, is it in a good place or a bad place?
It's in a bad place. My personal experience with a family member is shocking. My family member has been unwell for many years, and it was only the latter part of last year that we got a formal diagnosis, and that diagnosis came in December 14. That family member is now receiving therapy, and that started about a month ago. So that's nearly 6 months without, or 5 months without treatment. It begs a question: if you was diagnosed with cancer, would you wait 5 to 6 months for treatment? So I know mental health is a condition that cannot be seen, more's to the pity. But family members that live with people with a mental health condition, and there are problems within the family, I believe that the mental health professionals need to listen to the families, to the relatives, not just to the mothers, the fathers, but to grandparents, to friends of families. I call them silent witnesses, because they witness the behaviour. Whereas somebody with a mental health illness will go to a professional once or twice a month for 40 minutes if they're lucky. How can that mentally ill person impart symptoms and feelings? I really do think that the families need to be more involved in that diagnosis.
But some would say that families are too close to the situation and they're too raw and too involved, and that they will not be able to take a dispassionate or a clinical view of something which is a clinical illness.
No, I disagree. Totally. I think that has got to be explored before that you can say that. Although my own experience of trying to get my point across was not successful until December. But it didn't stop me, because I knew that my son was very ill, and what I didn't want to do was lose him. And I was very fearful that I would lose him. So there begs a question, you know, how far would you go to save your child's life? And I was prepared to do anything. Eventually I was listened to, but it wasn't for want of banging on numerous doors.
If you were in charge, it's an easy thing to do, what are maybe one or two things you would do to change things?
What I've just spoke about, silent witnesses. You need to listen to the families, to those that witness the behaviour. Secondly, information has got to be shared. You know, organisations and agencies say, well, the information is shared. It's not shared to a degree that it should be. You have local authority, police, doctors, A&E. For argument's sake, if my son went into a psychotic state and I was fearful for either him or people around him, and I rang the crisis line, my personal experience is it's a waste of time. They will tell me to either ring the police or call A&E. So I don't know why we have a crisis line, because to me it's just dysfunctional. It doesn't help me. So I call the police, or I take him to A&E, or I call an ambulance. Now what happens is when the police come, everything should flag up so that they know how to deal with this. And I'm kind of aware of the concordat that's been formulated where all agencies are involved. But it needs to come through lock, stock and barrel. This guy has mental health, and everything needs to be there. It's local authority won't know how many times someone's been sectioned, how many times they've attempted suicide. The police won't be aware of that. So all this information sits in different areas. It needs to all come together and then formulate a clear picture of that person. So if something does go badly wrong and that person's picked up, it's a bit like having an ID bracelet. You know, you find someone laying on the floor, or they're diabetic, or, you know, they're HIV or whatever. You can give them the help they need.
I'm surprised that we're in what you believe is such a state. I'm surprised we're in that state in 2015.
Am I surprised? No, not really. Things are too complicated. Everything's too complex. You know, you've got this agency here, and they kind of work for them a little bit, and you've got this agency. it's too complex. And the other thing is, if you go to your GP and you say, I'm not feeling very well, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling anxious, etc., the GP will then refer you. Once you're in that system, you should stay there. You shouldn't, once you're, like, my son is now a recovering borderline, which means he's recovering. He will never be cured, so he could relapse. Well, if he relapsed, I don't want to have to take him back to the GP. I want to have some form of communication where I pick the phone up or I email and say, Michael's gone into a psychotic episode, I need help and I need it now. I can't wait till Monday morning, Wednesday morning, go to the GP, then wait for a referral.
Treating people with mental health challenges, though, must be really expensive.
Yeah, well, everything's expensive. But let's look at this from another perspective. Let's look at the service. And what you need when you have a service, and adult social care is a service that has to be delivered. Let's look at the top. Let's see how many managers there are, how many people there are governing the service, and let's see how many people we've got downstairs delivering the service. And if you've got 46 managers and 26 people delivering the service, that's a bit back to front. So let's have a look and get some more people on the ground, people that are going out to people that are working with people. And I don't mean 5 minutes. 5 minutes in the door, 5 minutes in the house, 5 minutes out the door. This has got to be something that works.
Do you know of any organisations like that?
The only one that, about 4 years ago, I had a good experience with Mind. I found them very helpful. I don't know what it's like now, but I did actually have counselling with them. So did my son, and so did my daughter. And they were people that done it voluntary, but they had experience, as in they'd lived it. So when you go to someone at Mind, as I believe it used to be, that person had hands-on experience of what it's like to have gone through mental health issues or to have lived with someone. So when you're talking to them, there's empathy.
Is there a danger, like the mother who takes their child up the hospital with bruises every 3 weeks, because the kid might actually be a bit accident prone, but then fingers might be pointed at that mother? Is there also a danger, do you think, in situations that the mother keeps declaring that their son has mental health challenges, that people might start pointing the finger at the mother?
Yes, but that would enter my head.
But obviously there is history, it enters practitioners' heads. Is that ever a worry for you?
It didn't worry me, because it just didn't enter my head, Michael. My son was sick. I knew he was sick. I was witnessing things that I couldn't play back to people because it was in my mind. But I knew my son was sick, and I knew that if I didn't get him help, that he could die, and worst of all, he could take someone innocent with him. And not that he would have meant to have done it, but we read nearly every other day how people have been fouled and how somebody has been allowed to carry on in society, and they've been fouled by mental health, and it's ended tragically. And I was terrified this would happen with Michael. So it didn't enter my head that they might think it's me. That just didn't enter my head. I was just hell-bent on getting Michael help, and that was just so distressing and hard. But I didn't ever think anybody might think it was me. That's bizarre.